Well, hello everybody and welcome to this week's episode of the Mustard Seed Leadership Podcast. We are on a journey studying James as a leader, the leadership style of James. And over the last couple of episodes, we looked at how he led with humility, he led with courage, he led with truth. And the one I want to look at today, which once again really challenges me, is he led with action. James is the action man. It actually made me laugh when I compared James as a leader versus Paul, the great apostle who wrote so many of the letters. I mean, just think about the way Paul addressed the church in Philippi. Philippians chapter 1, right in the beginning, he says, I thank my God every time I remember you. In all my prayers for all of you, I pray with joy because of your partnership in the gospel from the first day until now, being confident of this, that he who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion of the day of Christ Jesus. What a beautiful greeting. How did James greet the church? Greetings. And then straight into the action. He was not a man of a whole lot of words, a whole lot of talk. He went straight into it. And if you've read the book of James, you'll know it's just action, action, action in terms of the different things that God's called us to. And here's one example that I want to focus in on. In James chapter 2, verses 16 and 17, he says, if one of you says to them, go in peace, keep warm and well fed, but does nothing about their physical needs, what good is it? In the same way, faith by itself, if it is not accompanied by action, is dead. I mean, there's the heart of James right there. You can't have faith without action. He's very action-orientated, which for me as a leader is so important. Because some people are very impulsive and they do before they think or pray. But for many people, similar to myself, actually there's a lot of thinking and pondering and praying and very little action. And that's why I love this leadership style of James is action-orientated. And I think we can learn something from that. So, big idea. Leaders are not called to be talkers, but called to be doers. My wife is far more action-orientated than I am. In fact, it's one of the things that I've learned from her over the years. I like to ponder and kind of get the scheme and the dream. And she's like, no, just start. Because once you start something, it's much easier to direct a ship that's moving or a vehicle that's moving than something that is stationary. In fact, it says in the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 11, verse 4, it says, whoever watches the wind will not plant. Whoever looks at the clouds will not reap. Isn't that interesting? Sometimes we can be so caught up in waiting for the perfect time, the perfect opportunity, the perfect funds, the perfect this, and we can so get caught up in our thinking, planning, scheming, but not pulling the trigger and actually doing anything. So there are some leaders who might need to hold back, but by and large, most leaders need to be nudged towards action. So I remember when we were going through our different building projects. Now, there's a classic example. We launched a building project and then the economy took a dip and then people are getting laid off and there's recession and all of these things. There's not much money in the bank account and everything in the natural side wants to, well, let's wait, let's hold back. But God had spoken. And leaders, that's the challenge right now, is as leaders, to wait for perfect conditions, perfect timing is going to actually always keep you on the back foot. The real issue is what has God said? Because if God has spoken, it's not the time to delay, it's the time to step forward. I want to give you an example. And this comes from the life of Isaac, way back in Genesis 26, verses 1 to 3, and then I'll read verse 12. It says, now there was a famine in the land. Remember, we're talking about timing now. And famine is not a time to be farming, besides the previous famine in Abraham's time. And Isaac went to Abimelech, the king of the Philistines in Gerar. The Lord appeared to Isaac and said, do not go down to Egypt. Live in the land where I tell you to live. Stay in this land for a while, and I will be with you and bless you. For you and your descendants, I will give all these lands and will confirm the oath I swore to your father Abraham. So it says, in the land. Now, it's famine in the land. But God says, don't leave. Don't go, stay in the land. And then in verse number 12, it says, so Isaac planted crops in that land and the same year reaped 100-fold because the Lord blessed him. Now, here's the big idea, leaders, that I want us to get hold of today, is sometimes we can sound wise and we can sound but cautious. But in fact, all you're doing is disguising a root of either laziness or fear. Laziness or fear can come across through a leader's mouth at times as caution, more planning required, when actually it's time to step forward and act. So, John Maxwell told this little story about early on in his leadership days. He said someone challenged him, when you wake up in the morning, before you let your feet touch the ground, sit up in bed and say to yourself 50 times, do it now, 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 do it now. You get the point. 50. He did it for a whole month and he became a man of action. Now, what's my challenge for all of us? You might be the cautious Tom. Naturally, I'm more cautious, more pensive, more pondering. Leaders are people of action. And I want to encourage you, leader. Maybe I'll give you a couple of questions just to ponder. Firstly, are you the type of person who's generally too impulsive or too cautious? Which side of the spectrum do you fall? Question number 2, what did you take from this lesson that you need to add to your leadership? Certainly for me, it's that. I can sound wise sometimes when actually I'm just hiding behind some procrastination, fear, laziness. What is stopping you from taking that step? And then question number 3, what have you been putting off because the timing is not right, but may actually just be fear or laziness? One of the big takeaways from studying the book of James over the last couple of weeks has been exactly this. James was a man of action. Leaders are called to be people of action. Do you need to step it up? Do you need to rein it in? But certainly for me, let's be leaders who take the plunge. Hope it helps. Hope it challenges you the way it's challenged me as well. And I can't wait to see you again in the next episode. Bye for now.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode. Remember, if you'd like the notes that come along with this episode or any one of our past episodes, you can visit outlookchurch.co.za/mustardseed-leadership, where you can see all our past episodes, all the resources and notes that go along with this. Until next time, keep growing.